What's up, fam? How's everybody doing today? Kyle Henderson along with Ty Hayes. We get together Wednesday right here on Bama Football on YouTube and talk Crimson Tide headlines, college football headlines. Let us know where you guys are coming from inside the comment box. Got a great show lined up for you. If you don't know about Ty Hayes, go follow him on Around the Sports Table. Follow his content on YouTube. I know talent when I see it. Ty is definitely on the rise. Ty, let's just jump right into it. Here are the headlines that we are going to talk about today when we talk, about the college football headlines. And there's a lot of stuff to go over. You got the Florida Attorney General diving into the College Football Playoff Committee. We're going to talk some recruiting news, some massive visits, and some recruiting news taking place this week. We got Michigan's offense versus Alabama's defense. We're going to look at that today. We got the NFL mock draft, a lot of players from the Alabama defense, and then the schedule reveal, which we'll talk about today. And then the schedule reveal will take place on SEC tonight. So action-packed show. But Ty, I appreciate you being here. And I know you got a lot to go over when we talk about this Florida Attorney General. Kind of set the stage real quick before we go to Attorney General Ashley Moody.
Yeah, so this is super intriguing to me. For those of you that know what I do, who I am, I actually came from the legal world, and I didn't yet go to law school, but I was working in law firms. I was competing in undergraduate moot court. My university flew me around the country so that I could argue in front of judges, lawyers, and just do simulated Supreme Court trials. So while I never attended law school, that was the plan. I have worked in that environment. I've worked with lawyers. I've been trained by them. And this is a super interesting lawsuit to me because I don't understand where the ground is. Kyle, at the point where you get a committee together, inherently it's going to be subjective, right? Like you are basing it off of the four best teams, not four most deserving. Yeah. In that language right there, that verbiage, it's inherently saying this is a subjective decision. We are going to pick who we think is the four best. Yeah. Essentially, Florida is saying, we don't like your opinion and we're going to sue you over it. So I don't think this lawsuit is going to go anywhere. Now, important to note, like you were pointing out, it's not going to affect anything in the current season, right? Sure. Even if in a separate reality, this does go somewhere, it's not going to have any bearing on this season. But I just don't know from a legal perspective what ground they're going to stand on because they're trying to subpoena all this stuff. It's a subjective decision and it's codified into the rules about that injury. That's not something new. Before I pass it to you, Kyle, this is the last thing I'll say. If the committee had written that rule, about, oh, well, now because Jordan Travis isn't there, we're now going to modify the rules of the college football playoff selection to where we will take into account injuries. Then they may have a case about collusion. But that was already there. We did this in 2014 with Ohio State. The difference was Ohio State massacred Wisconsin in their bowl game. Kyle, what did you think when you saw this? Because it's peak silliness, in my opinion. It's posturing.
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing about it is Florida State and the state of Florida, they just need to let this thing go. I mean, the playoff system was designed to fail from the get-go. And with, kind of Florida and now their attorney general digging into this, it only makes Florida State, in my opinion, look bad. And it makes the Florida State program look entitled. I get it. There was probably some decisions that were made that were going to be difficult on a system that was made to fail. But you're right. I mean, they literally had in their criteria, if you don't have one of your best players on the team or if he gets injured, then that team is going to be looked at differently. I mean, I think the person who said it best, honestly, was Brian Kelly from LSU when he said that we played Alabama, we played Florida State, and at the end of the year, those are two different teams. He's absolutely right, and that's what it comes down to. I think that it was a system that was designed to fail, but let's listen to Attorney General Ashley Moody and hear her video. This was posted yesterday. We're going to look at that, and then we'll trade some talking points. But this was from yesterday.
Florida State University in front of the iconic Unconquered statue. Most of you know I'm a lifelong Gator, but I'm also Florida's Attorney General, and I know injustice when I see it. Shockingly, what happened to the undefeated Noles after winning the ACC championship has college football fans in Florida and across the nation wanting answers. It's justified. What's clear is the need for more information about the unprecedented decision made by a group of 13 in secret that for the first time ever left an undefeated Power 5 conference champion out of the playoff. This stunning decision not only disappointed millions of fans, it cost this university and the ACC millions of dollars. The NCAA conferences and the College Football Playoff Selection Committee are subject to antitrust laws. We are launching an investigation to examine if the committee was involved in any anti-competitive conduct in its unprecedented decision. As it stands, the committee's decision reeks of partiality, picking winners in the boardroom and not on the field. So we are demanding answers, not only for FSU, but for all schools, teams, and fans of college football. We sent a subpoena to the committee demanding all communications related to the deliberations, documents showing compensation of members, and vote tallies, including who received access to those votes, who was present during the voting. We are also seeking information about software or programs used to record or tally votes. This process won't be quick, and unfortunately, we don't expect it will change this season's playoffs. But every college football program, including the 13 D1 schools in Florida, deserves to know if the committee is stacking the deck. I have faith in our antitrust division to get to the bottom of the matter and take appropriate action if warranted. In Florida, merit matters. And if it's attention they were looking for, the CFP committee certainly has our attention now.
All right, that was, let me bring this up real quick. Okay, so that was Attorney General Ashley Moody talking about an investigation that is now going forward with the College Football Playoff Committee here with Ty Hayes from around the sports table. I mean, this has gotten completely out of control. Can you imagine? All right, just for a second. Now, this is literally going to take place. Like, this isn't just like some senator, like, you know, up on a podium saying that they're going to, like, this is actually going to happen. Like, subpoenas have been filed, right? Can you imagine if Coach Saban would have done this, or Alabama would have been a part of this, if they would have missed the playoffs last year, in which they did, and I'm saying after by 4 points, and saying, you know, we're better than TCU, and TCU lost their conference championship game, and you are making decisions inside of the room, and, you know, you're not being transparent. Look, I mean, Ty, more on this. I mean, when you look to kind of the scope of it, does this look, this looks bad for the state of Florida, but also for Florida State, right?
Look, this is the one thing I will say. I don't know, in my opinion, that this looks bad on FSU, because unless FSU is absolutely spearheading this, but this to me reeks of political posturing. Jeff typed it down in the comments. Florida attorney generals are elected every 4 years. The last election was 2022. So there's still a little bit into this, right? Like, there's still, the next election isn't going to be until 2026. But this is political posturing, in my opinion. This is grandstanding. Like, this is exactly what's happening, because whenever they talk about it was decided in a boardroom as opposed to being decided on the field, yeah, congratulations. Welcome to the college football playoff era. It's been like that since 2013. I'm so glad you're finally with us. It's almost as if they woke up from the BCS era to now all of a sudden being like, oh, wait, we have a committee? Yeah, we've had a committee for a decade.
Yep.
So I don't know where in the world this lawsuit has any standing. I'm fascinated, though, but I don't know where they're going to go. It's so ridiculous. It reminds me of the Disney stuff, but the Disney stuff, in my opinion, may have more standing, and they got smacked down by Disney. And to me, it could be intertwined with that. Disney and ESPN are coinciding. Florida has a beef with Disney.
What a great point, Ty. What a great point.
Honestly, they've been beefing with Disney about the zoning and about some tax exemption statuses, and now ESPN is owned by Disney, and now they get to continue poking the mouse. Well, the last time you poked the mouse, you got bit.
All right, man. Okay, so wanted to start off with that. I mean, because this is major news. I mean, this is national news, and there's going to be some action that is taking place. So I don't know if it's really going to go anywhere. And again, it's not going to affect this year's playoff. I mean, it's going to be fun to find out kind of what does come out from it. Of course, you know, it's we'll keep you posted, but just wanted to start off with that because that came up yesterday. All right, so more important stuff and actual things that we want to dive into, recruiting. So Coach Saban, by the way, looks fantastic. I love like the dapper, like the different blazers that he's been rocking. I mean, he's got the blue and the check. I mean, he just looks fantastic. Honestly, he doesn't look 72 to me.
No.
So here's kind of what we're looking at. Kind of an overview. Ty, I'll kind of pass it back to you and kind of talk about some of these headlines on the recruiting front.
Man, and what a recruiting front it is. We have some transfer portal. We have some recruiting we're going to talk to you. Of course, Ryan Williams getting that reclassification in. I think he's still a little bit underrated, even though the composite has him at 12 after reclassifying. That's a top 10 player in the nation, ladies and gentlemen. But let's look forward. In the transfer portal, you have LT Overton, 6'5" sophomore defensive lineman. He's visiting Alabama this weekend. Now, Kyle, when we talk about LT Overton, there's some connection to Alabama here. What do the people need to know?
Yeah, I think when you look to LT Overton, I mean, this is a very talented defensive lineman, and you kind of look to, pieces that are falling into the puzzle. For example, Anquin Barnes was a defensive lineman, hit the transfer portal. So did Isaiah Hastings. Does one thing have to do with another? Probably not. But when I think you look to the larger scope of Justin Ebogbe leaving the program after this season, a veteran, you want somebody to come in and play alongside Jaheim Otis and Tim Keenan. I think LT Overton fits that system. So I know right now he's visiting a couple places. I believe he's visiting South Carolina right now, and then has Bama and then Florida State in that order. So if Alabama is able to close to him, and he does have a brother, I don't think they're necessarily a package deal, but I think when you look to key transfer targets, this would be a guy that could come in, fit in the system, and be an impact player for Alabama going into that 2024 season. South Carolina, they've landed some key prospects. They just landed the running back from Arkansas. They're making a play in Florida State, right? They're relevant again, and Mike Norvell has done a great job with that program, resurrecting it. I'm curious to see if he can continue that level of consistent play year after year, and getting a player like this would certainly do the trick. So in Bama, I mean, this is around the time where it is closing time for Coach Saban. This is when he shines, and another aspect to be like, okay, you can come in here. Not only can we get you to the playoffs, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, whatever it is, the national championship, but we can also get you to ultimately where you want to go, and that's the development of playing in the National Football League, which all these guys want to do. I think LT Overton would be a slam dunk. He's got some a good amount of eligibility left, and the transfer portal targets are heating up, and I think LT Overton certainly one of them.
Two more things to add on to that. His dad worked for the university, right? So there is a family tie to Alabama too. Jeff in the comments saying LT Overton was okay. He wasn't like Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan's a beast, just
Monster.
an absolute monster. Someone's going to be very lucky. Here's what I will say, Jeff. LT Overton just got done playing SEC ball. He reclassified. He pulled the Ryan Williams. He enrolled at Texas A&M a year early. Remember, he's now going up against a grown man on the offensive line who may have been in a college strength and conditioning room for years, and he's 17 years old, and he was still sunning people. This is a dude. I'm fine if Bama takes one name in the transfer portal and it's LT Overton. I would be over the moon. Love your point about Ebogbe moving on and how he slots in there. Let's talk about a small recruit, right? Just somebody whose stature isn't going to be that noticeable. And of course, I'm being facetious. Favor Edwin, standing 6'8", 290 pounds, offensive tackle out of Georgia. And Kyle, Alabama has been a thorn in the side of the Georgia Bulldogs for players in the state. Let's talk about Edwin.
I mean, I think when you look to the state of Georgia and all the prospects that it has, I mean, it's right behind the big three, right? You have California, Texas, you have Florida, and Georgia's right there. I mean, the amount of talent, in the state is just unbelievable. I've even really been blown away with the state of Alabama and the talent that continues to come out of here. I know, the guys on the right of this graphic, both out of the state of Alabama, each 5 stars, right? But when you look to Edwin, I mean, he's a major target for each of these programs: Alabama, Auburn, Florida. I don't know. I think he's going to announce on Thursday. 6'8", 290 pounds. Is this some sort of a backup plan to, Seton or some other offensive lineman? Well, Alabama already has some pretty good offensive linemen that are committed: Will Sanders, Joseph Ionia, and I'm sure they're going to add. I would be curious to see if Alabama goes into the transfer portal down the road for an offensive lineman, because I think when you look look to the offensive line, you do have some guys coming in like Wilcom Formby, the lean kid from Finland, but you need a guy who can come in and be an immediate fill, probably for J.C. Latham, or at least create competition, right? We've seen them do that in the past with Tyler Steen from Vanderbilt. So I wouldn't be shocked about that. Would this be a miss? I don't know, but I mean, it's intriguing because he's almost 7 feet tall and 300 pounds, and I like his tape. I think he's only a 3-star on some recruiting sites, but whatever the case is, I mean, those stars all get erased. One guy who's doing an incredible job recruiting offensive linemen as of late, we talked about that, has been Coach Prime. You know, he's there like, you need offensive linemen. He's like, okay, I'm going to go get 7 offensive linemen in 7 days from different parts of the country, transfer portal. And of course, he landed Jordan Seaton. So Edwin, I think, is a key target. We're going to all be watching that announcement on Thursday. It would be a great addition to this class of 2024, which is rising, I think, on On3. I follow On3 more than I do the other side, not because of any particular reason or favoritism. I like their interface, you know, kind of makes sense to me. I'm real, you know, I like aesthetics, and, you know, I like what they got going, but 24/7 Rivals also, you know, are ranking these kids as well and have different recruiting classes. I think on Rivals, Alabama's currently number 4, and on On3, they're number 3. Whatever the case is, it's going to be a top 5 class, but with Ryan Williams now reclassifying and being a commitment, of course, he still has to sign with Alabama. You see that class being bolstered with you know, another 5-star, and landing Edwin would be a great addition from the offensive line standpoint.
Now, before we jump over here to this right side of the graphic, because I have some things I want to talk about there. Yeah. I do want to quickly pause on Edwin, because you talked about how he's a 3-star, but Kyle, we need to talk about this. We need to have this conversation. A 3-star for Alabama is not necessarily a normal 3-star, and let me unpack what I just said. Nick Saban goes about the process where if you're going to play for Bama, you probably camped at Bama.
Yep.
So these coaches have seen you. They've run the drills they would like to run. Their list is completely different than all these recruiting services.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about that and how that makes it to where if an Alabama fan is like, oh, well, he's only a 3-star, that's kind of fool's gold. Talk to the people about that, because it's really been positive for Saban in this program.
Yeah. So, you know, don't get it wrong. Like, these guys, the coaches and the staff, know where the guys rank them. Like if they're a 5-star or 4-star, that definitely does get attention. And even in their bios, you know, they list that it's a 5-star recruit on On3 or 24/7 or whatever the case is. It does make your program look better, you know, from that PR standpoint. But on the back end of like the coaches, like Big Board, they have a room literally with the players and where they fit in terms of needs and in terms of development and going forward. And I don't necessarily know if it's a star ranking system, but the coaches certainly have they put together a great amount of research on each single player to make sure they're getting the right player into the system. I don't necessarily know if like having a 5-star guy is like a must sometimes. Like, it's more about the needs and developmental and where can this guy go in terms of looking at the overall ceiling for these players. They do a great job. Think about the job that Coach Saban has done from a developmental process because he's been able to get a lot of guys. And then look, a lot of the guys at Alabama get our 5 and 4-star, whatever the case is. But once you get into Alabama and you start playing against that competition every single day, you're going to be better. So, for example, like we haven't even seen 2 5-stars, and I keep talking about these guys, Yanzi Pierre and Keon Keeley. Okay, they came in as 5-stars. Can you imagine where those guys are at now in their process and going up against, you know, the offensive lineman kind of in the back end, or going up against Caden Proctor? So Coach Saban has his own ranking system, and I think safe to say he's been able to develop a lot of players, you know, that have even been 3-stars or 4-stars or whatever. He's going to get you to the next level. He's going to develop you 100%.
Yeah, the development at Alabama, it is sensational. It's why we talk about Alabama like a corporation. It's a machine. Let's jump over here to this right side because, Kyle, I got a little bit of a hot take here. Jalen Mbakwe is a 5-star everywhere. But dare I say he might be the most underrated 5-star in the country? You don't hear a lot of talk on him, and maybe it's because he shut down his recruiting process so early and was rolling with the tide. It was understood. We're coming out of a state championship game where he and Ryan Williams accounted for every point scored, 8 touchdowns coming from both of these guys. Both he and Ryan Williams have logged consistent sub 10.5 100-meter dashes. Is that a stretch to say that this kid right here, even though he's a top 25 player in the nation, he's still one of the more underrated, just because you don't hear a lot about him, players in this class?
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. When you talk about Jalen Mbakwe, I mean, the guy completely balled out in that 6A state title game, and that was kind of overshadowed by the fact that Ryan Williams had some big news coming in a couple days, right? So you had these two big-time prospects going up against each other, both Alabama commitments. One has been ultra solid from the get-go, and I think when a prospect shuts down his recruitment that early in the process, you lose kind of that national notoriety. Not to say that he's any less of a talent, because the guy is fantastic. As you said, he's an absolute burner. He can play on both sides of the football. He's very respectful. I've talked to him a couple times. Good head on his shoulders, and I think he's going to be able to come in and eventually fulfill one of those, whether it's Kool-Aid or Terrion Arnold. I don't know how fast he's going to be able to do that, because playing corner is the most difficult job in all of football, no matter what level you're playing at. But the guy is special. He's an elite player, and Coach Saban is visiting with him, I think either today or tomorrow, making a key visit just to, talk with him one more time and his family. And then he will sign, and he will be an early enrollee. So one thing about the early enrollees, and we talked about this on Tuesday, is these early enrollees that are coming to Alabama, they can actually start practicing with the team for Michigan. They can travel with the team to the Rose Bowl. Now, they can't play in the game, and there's a couple practices where they can't actually practice in. But for the most part, can you imagine being Jalen Mbakwe, playing your state title game, wrapping things up with your high school, coming to talk about an incredible December, and then coming to Alabama, getting your practice jersey, getting to practice with the team right away. And you're already in the drills, and you're already getting that developmental process, working with the players alongside Terrion, alongside Kool-Aid, and you're there in the fold, along with Caleb Downs, who is just a freshman as well. So, he's absolutely underrated in every sense of the word, and ultra playmaker. So I know people are really excited about Ryan Williams, and rightfully so. And Ryan Williams, according to him, he's going to sign on February 9th and still take all of his official visits. But Jalen Mbakwe, I mean, this guy is a slam dunk for Coach Saban, a slam dunk in-state prospect. And I think it's so important for you to take care of your own backyard. And that is something that Coach Saban has done a wonderful job of. I know there's a lot of prospects in the state of Alabama to keep tabs on. We're going to talk about Perry Thompson next, and currently an Auburn commitment. But in terms of keeping, your own backyard and taking care of it, Coach Saban does a fantastic job. Jalen Mbakwe is a key target. Can't wait to see him in Alabama Crimson Tide uniform.
Yeah, we have some people in the chat asking, will he be on offense? Will he be on defense? That's a beautiful problem to have, isn't it? Whether we're really debating where do we put him, because he is so darn good. He will change the game either side. Him on that defensive side is going to be tough. I think that's where he'll end up. Yeah, we know Saban, defensive guy. He's going to have his say, right? And a player like Mbakwe, no chance. No chance.
That's right.
Now let's get to this last name here, Perry Thompson, because this has been a really intriguing will he, won't he, really since the inception of this recruiting battle. It was interesting to me, Kyle, whenever he said, I'm 60% committed.
Yeah.
Because that was when I was like, oh, so, you're not fully committed, which is fine. Take your time, do your process, no hard feelings. By all means, make that decision. But something caught my eye here recently. He released a graphic saying he's going to make his decision next Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And on that graphic was an Auburn uniform and an Alabama uniform. Now, Kyle, if you are so solid on Auburn, why in the world would you have an Alabama uniform in your graphic? Talk to us about this.
I mean, this has been a wild recruitment for Perry Thompson, who's a 5-star wide receiver. There's been another pretty good wide receiver out of that same region, right? Julio Jones. Look, these kids at this point in time, with the graphics and the build up to signing day, we have created this, right? Like, not like the media, but everybody who follows this. Like, we've all bought into this. We're all hyping up signing day. We want to be on pins and needles, finding out what's happening. But alongside that, the addition of the boogeyman to the state of Alabama with Hugh Freeze, he's caused a lot of this too. And I know a lot of people are still nervous about Ryan Williams. They're like, yeah, Ryan Williams reclassified, but is he going to sign? And Ryan was like, I'm not signing until February 9th, and I'm taking all my official visits. So the thing with Perry Thompson and the thing with Auburn is going to recruit at a very high level because they have a strong backing of the NIL now that we're in that space. And there's going to be wide receivers that, or just players in general that Auburn is able to get. I know they lost a defensive player yesterday to the transfer portal, which was kind of a surprise. But this is going to be an interesting, recruitment down to the wire. But I don't know. I mean, I follow Andrew Bone, who does an incredible job and really has his ear to the ground and stuff. And it really hasn't mentioned that much about Perry Thompson, but who knows? I mean, it is signing day. Weird things happen. I don't know if the recruitment is 100% over. It could just be a troll, but whatever it is exciting to kind of talk about. And when I did see the graphic, I thought more of like a troll standpoint, but who knows? I mean, this could be one of those deals where, you come out and you put the Bama hat on and then you rip it off and you put an Auburn. I don't know, but either way, he got my attention. I'm going to be watching his announcement on Wednesday for sure.
And you hit the nail on the head. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Kyle just really spit something out that I think we all need to take a moment to appreciate. Seriously, because we're in the NIL era.
Yeah.
Building your brand equals building value, right? Nick Saban talks about building value. There's different ways to build value. At Alabama, it's take care of business and your value will build. Another way you can build value is by putting eyes on you. And what did Kyle just say? He thinks it's a troll, but no matter what, he's now going to be watching Wednesday. I as well am in that same boat. And how many of you, let's be honest, in the chat, hop down there. Let me know if you're now going to be watching Perry Thompson on Wednesday. Because if your answer is yes, it gives credence to this theory that this could be trolling for the sake of brand building for NIL. I'm not mad at it. Right? I'm not mad at it. This is one we have got to watch. Jarvis saying Ryan Williams is visiting Auburn Saturday. He's, in my opinion, going to see Bronny.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to see Bronny James go play basketball at Auburn. That's why he's going to that Auburn visit. But that's just my 2 cents. That's neither here nor there. So great recruiting news we've talked about. Now, this next one, Kyle, I'm very excited about. Michigan offense versus Alabama's defense. And you were telling me something in the green room that really stood out, something that people need to be aware of. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, in the pre-show, we wanted to talk about Michigan's offense today versus Alabama's defense. And when I was cooking up these graphics on the pre-show, something just jumped right off to me. And it wasn't up at the top of Michigan's offense being number 57 and Alabama's defense being number 16 overall. It was this fact. You have Dallas Turner, you have Terran Arnold, and Kool-Aid JaQuincy McKinstry. And what do those three have in common? They are each first-team All-Americans. And you look to the other side of Michigan, they don't have an All-American on the offense. Now, look, we all know about Alabama's defense and how dominant that they've been this year. And we've talked about the Michigan offense and how they really haven't been challenged throughout the entire season. I think it's going to be a tall task for Michigan, regardless of what their game plan is, to go against the Alabama defense. And specifically, what we talked about yesterday, kind of the X factor of the entire game is Jalen Milroe, of course. And it's going to be for the national title as well. But I think in this particular, like other themes, other X factors are going to be those two young men, Dallas Turner and Chris Broswell. And we talked about getting heat on Carson Beck and making him uncomfortable in the SEC title game. They did just that. And when you look to the fact that these two guys have a total of 18 sacks combined, and you look to Terran Arnold, you look to Kool-Aid, you look to Caleb Downs, you look to other guys who are more underrated on the defensive side. Man, Alabama's defense just looks better and better and better to me. And I think it's probably going to be the ultimate deciding factor in this game. Ty, what are your thoughts on Michigan versus Alabama from an offensive and defensive perspective head to head?
I'm going to pick up right where you left off on Turner and Braswell, because 18 sacks combined, 91 tackles combined is incredible. But do you want to know, sacks is a great stat. It is. Mm-hmm. It's. I know there was an argument a while ago that sacks was an overvalued stat. I don't think I disagree with that, because it's a negative play, or it's a play where it nets nothing. That's a great play.
Yeah.
You want to know what can be just as important as sacks? Quarterback pressures. And those numbers are eye-popping.
Yeah.
Like if you think 10 and 8 sacks is impressive, go check out the quarterback pressures, and then look at how quickly opposing quarterbacks are getting the ball out of their hand when they play Alabama. It's because of those two dudes. Yeah. But then it gets us into this secondary. And Kyle, when I look at this, Michigan is, I think, going to be down their best offensive lineman, Zach Zinter. He went down. He plays that guard. You're looking at Jaheim Otis. You're looking at a Boygby. You're looking at Tim Keenan, because if they have any sort of hobbled guard play in this game, Bama's going to dial up stunts. They're going to attack that guard. They're going to pick the guard with Keenan, with Otis, with a Boygby, and Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell are going to come into that gap and make their life hell for 60 minutes. I'm very much well of the mindset, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Alabama is almost working ahead of the curve right now because they just got done prepping for Georgia. Georgia and Michigan do something similar. The difference, in my opinion, Georgia is more of a threat in the passing game than is Michigan. How much of that puts Bama ahead of the curve in terms of the preparation they were able to levy from Georgia and take that into the Michigan preparation?
Yeah, I think you said it well. I think that Georgia is definitely more balanced than Michigan, and I think that JJ McCarthy, while he does have some good statistics, they're a team that is built more on the run, and that's kind of how some of these other Big Ten teams are outside of Ohio State, right, who can sling the ball around a little bit. But I think that Blake Corum is going to have a very challenging time running against Alabama's defense. That's probably another theme to this game, is how are they going to be able to run the football? And if I'm Michigan, I'm going into this game, how can we control the time of possession and keep Alabama's offense off the field? How can we control, because I think with that, the time of possession is also going to control the momentum, if that's Michigan's game plan. And if they're able to get a good ground game going with Blake Corum, by the way, I didn't realize that he has 24 touchdowns this year, and everybody knows he's an absolute beast, but running against Alabama's defense has been a challenge for everybody outside of Auburn. And again, I keep calling Hugh Freeze the boogeyman because that's what he is, right? He had a game plan that was effective, but you look to Georgia's running game, they had a really challenging time running against Alabama, specifically on 3rd and short. That was one of the major factors in that game, along with the fact that Georgia missed a field goal and that they created that they had a fumble, is that on 3rd and short, Alabama's defense came up large, right? And I think that they're going to do that again against Michigan. So then you kind of look to JJ McCarthy. What can you do over the top? What type of weapons do you have to go against 2 first-team All-Americans or a freshman All-American in the back end? Meanwhile, you're getting quarterback pressures from Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell. So if Harbaugh doesn't come in with a button-tight, game plan and things don't go well, this could be a very challenging game for Michigan from the offensive perspective, just because I think Alabama's defense is a lot better than Michigan's offense.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of conversations about what Auburn was able to do in the running game, and I kind of want to dial into this a little bit. Because, Kyle, I've seen even Michigan fans bring that up, and I'm not going to lie. If I was a Michigan fan, I'd be pointing to that as well, right? Like New Mexico State just beat Auburn, and then they run for 250 yards on you. I'd say it myself. I wouldn't have much belief in it, but I'd be using that as ammunition. Here's the problem. When we start getting into the nuanced conversations and talking ball, which is what we do here, one is a zone gap scheme, and the other is a gap scheme, right? Like one of them is a base zone running scheme. One of them is a zone run scheme. The other is a gap run scheme. Sure. They're totally different. And Hugh Freeze is an offensive wizard. He's going to create assumptions, make you assume wrong, and then his run scheme will make you pay. That's not what Michigan does. Now, Michigan has got a great running attack, but in my opinion, it's more analogous to Georgia. And we've seen Alabama be able to handle those zone running schemes easier than what Hugh Freeze is doing out there. So I get the Auburn argument, but we also, if we're going to talk about Auburn, we have to dive into the nuance of the different schematic running schemes there are and how it affects a defense. Auburn's run scheme is not the same as Michigan's run scheme. They're not. And so it's not an analogous comparison. I've said this for a long time, Kyle. I want to get your thoughts on it. I just don't believe you're going to be able to beat Alabama by simply running it down their throat. I've only seen it done one time, and that was Zeke Elliott. Yeah. Right? That's it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I said it in the beginning of the season. I said the teams that are able to beat Alabama. Let's look at the last what was it? The last 3 teams to beat Alabama. I think, what is it? Tennessee, LSU, and Texas, right? What did they all have in common? They're all able to throw the football over the top. They all had a quarterback that could sling the ball around. And specifically LSU and Tennessee, they were able to rack up big points against Alabama's defense. With that said, in Texas did a great job, and I think a lot. We can talk about that Texas game more, but Texas, their defense did a great job, and they really beat Alabama in the trenches. I would love to see that kind of round 2 matchup as those teams have matured. But the thing about it is, Alabama's defense is completely different now under Kevin Steele. The defensive transformation from 1 year to this year has been remarkable. I know Tommy Rees was up for the Broyles Award and whatnot, but Kevin Steele has been, I mean, give him whatever award for a top assistant in the entire country, and nobody even talks about him. I'm not sure why, but this Alabama defense has been ferocious, right? They've been consistent. These guys have been playing at a high level. They've manufactured some incredible second half adjustments that have really catapulted the back end of this team, to be honest. So I think that this defense has so much momentum. They're healthy too. All these guys are healthy, right? I mean, Deontay Lawson had some hiccups. Devontae Smith is back. Kool-Aid's back after, missing. I think he went through concussion protocols on the back end. Terrence Arnold, he's healthy. Trey Amos, he's a back end sub who's playing at a very high level. Jahad Campbell's a baller. Trez Martian's a baller. I mean, Caleb Downs. I mean, whoever. I mean, the defense is fantastic, and that's that old adage that defense wins what? Yeah, championship. So Kevin Steele. I mean, with him coming back, my goodness, I didn't realize how quickly he'd make an impact. Coach Saban certainly knew what he was doing when he called up Kevin Steele, and it was a great addition. And really, he's been, the main addition to this backbone of this defense. So when I was kind of looking at headlines, I started looking to Alabama's defense versus Michigan's offense, and I saw a lot of things that I liked for Alabama's defense, and I think it's going to be a very big challenge for Michigan's offense to go against this defense. So I just wanted to kind of, get your points on that, because I think that is going to be a monumental shift when you look to that particular game come the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, 100%. And to your point, Steele has been sensational at adjustments, right? Like Saint Steele saved us 100%. He's been great at adjustments. I mean, you look at how Alabama has handled teams in the second half defensively this year. They've shut teams down. And then you hear Saban talk about that Georgia game where after the first drive, they switched things up defensively, gave Georgia fits after that. Steele has been great.
Yeah.
Ooh, good comment here.
Right. Yep.
Al Sanders saying nobody is talking about Charlie Strong being an analyst on the defense. T-Rob and Coach Balla contribute. The entire defensive staff, including Steele's been killing it. Sanders, you're 1,000% right.
Yeah.
Travaris Robinson, whatever he wants to make, pay him. Pay him, whatever. Keep him on staff, and great things will happen. And Balla has been a phenomenal addition.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, because you're replacing an inside linebackers coach. Because remember last year, Pete Golding was the defensive coordinator and then also worked with the inside linebackers. Just think about the inside linebacker play year over year as well. Now, I know different players, X's and O's, Jimmy's and Joe's, whatever the case is. But think about the inside linebacker play. Deontay Lawson, he's been playing out of this world. Jahad Campbell, Trez Marshall, those guys have done a great job under the leadership of now Balla. So look, Pete Golding is gone, and now you focus on the guys that are here. Balla, I love that addition. You also have Coach Freddie Roach back in that defensive, fold with those coaches. And you're right. I mean, T-Rob has been doing a great job overall with this defensive secondary. Coach Saban also does the secondary. He's also working with the corners. When you go to Alabama practice, it's great to watch Coach Saban, because he always is working with DBs. He was an old DB, play DB, and he's still a defensive-minded coach. But Ty, I wanted to talk about this mock draft because it kind of plays into what we were talking about when you looked at the mock draft for Alabama. Check this out. Mock drafts are starting to fly off. And a lot of these guys are on the defensive side of the ball for Alabama, and a lot of these guys are in the first round for these mock drafts.
Yeah, and I think Dallas Turner is a guy where every NFL GM is licking their chops because he's one of those players who's great in college. He's an NFL player, right? There are certain guys where you're like, oh, you were a top player in college. You could go on to the NFL and just continue going up. he's a name to watch. At 11, you have Terrion Arnold with the Falcons. I'm interested in having a conversation around that with you, Kyle. We'll take a pause on that. Then 16, you have Kool-Aid, 21, J.C. Latham, 31, Chris Braswell. Let's go through this because Dallas Turner, it doesn't surprise me at all to see him being the first Alabama player off the board. Do you expect that to happen?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Following Will Anderson. So I had a source a couple years ago that was talking about Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, and they were like, people don't realize, because this was kind of around the Will Anderson kind of whole Terminator. Remember, that was his nickname because he was just so dominant. They're like, people don't realize how good Dallas Turner is going to be just a couple steps behind him. And that was hard to kind of fathom at that point because William Anderson was just beasting it. But now you looked at the fact that, like a mock draft like this has him at 6. Well, Will Anderson only went 3, right? So they were right. They were absolutely right in every sense of the word. And just like we were talking in our last segment about Michigan's offense versus Alabama's defense, look at all these guys in the first round, right? I mean, you could theoretically have 1, 2, 3, what is it? 4 guys in the first round of the NFL draft go off from that defensive side of the ball. A lot of that is because these guys are absolute ballers. A lot of that is because of the coaches, but a lot of that I continue to flex on the fact that Nick Saban can get you there. Right. So when you're recruiting, can you imagine if you're a recruit and you start to see these mock drafts and you see the Alabamas in the Rose Bowl and up for another national title? The GOAT is the absolute GOAT 100%. And from the defensive side of the ball, I mean, all these guys are still contributing at such a high level. These are not bowl opt-outs. These are playoff guys who are playing at the peak of their, college career. Dallas Turner flying off the board number 1 doesn't surprise me at all. He's going to be the first guy picked from Alabama. He's going to get after quarterbacks in the NFL. The guy's a nightmare. I mean, if you're JJ McCarthy, if you're Quinn, or if you're Michael Penix, and you know that Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell are still in the fold, you got to be concerned because whether it's quarterback sacks or quarterback pressures, these guys are going to make you uncomfortable. As soon as we knew that these guys were coming back for Alabama, just when you look down the road at Keeley and Yanzi Pierre, those are the next guys in line. Quay Russo as well. The edge rushers have been monumental this year. Dallas Turner lived up to the hype and more. Top 10 pick, top 5 pick probably in the NFL. Just unbelievable career for Dallas Turner.
I could see him going even higher. I mean, if he goes into this playoffs and has the type of performance I think he's going to have, because he's one when the moment is the brightest, there's Dallas Turner. When you need the play, there's Dallas Turner. I think he could go even higher. Let's talk about Terrion, because earlier in this stream, we were talking about Alabama's development. Yeah. Kyle, this is a guy who has not been a dedicated cornerback for 2 whole years yet. This is a dude that has the ability to play every single position in the secondary. And dare I say, he could probably start at every other school in the nation, anywhere in their secondary. Talk to me about Arnold, the development he has, and what makes him such a unique prospect. Because I think some people might be surprised to see him being mocked above Kool-Aid, but I'd argue that versatility plays a factor there.
Yeah, I mean, Terrion, a lot of people forget that he was an elite basketball player out of Tallahassee, right? So you have Terrion and Kool-Aid who are even kind of floating the idea of playing for Nate Oates. And I know that kind of fizzled out for the basketball side, but that just shows you how talented athletes those guys are. I mean, watch Terrion Arnold's highlights in basketball. Unbelievable. I mean, you kind of look back to his highlights, Kool-Aid's highlights at playing basketball. Henry Ruggs, when he was in high school down at Montgomery, unbelievable mixtape in terms of what he could do on the basketball court. But Terrion Arnold, you're right. He has a lot of versatility. And people were curious to see how he would do this year at the corner position, because last year he had a tough time. He had to grow up and he had to change his game. He had to work on his craft, but he's very versatile. He can play corner. He can play safety. He can play star. Good open field tackler, has a lot of pass breakups, and he's an opportunistic player. And what I mean by that, he seems to be in the right place at the right time, comes up with some very critical interceptions. And I think what's really helped him develop is clearly himself, but also you have Kool-Aid working one side of the field. So they don't want to test Kool-Aid. So he's seen a ton of action. People have challenged him. They try to go over the top. And Terrion's done a great job game after game showing that he's a big time corner. And I know he's not on the board right here, but I'd also like to give a shout out to Trey Amos, because Trey Amos came in and there were some people at the beginning of the season. You can go rewind and look at my tweets. I said that Terrion was my spring game MVP. or one of them around that time, because I just saw so much growth from him. But Trey Amos was a player that they felt they was going to come in and take Terry on's spot or whatever. He's done a great job just playing during his opportunities and playing at a very high level. This is a different team without Trey Amos. And I know you can't say that a lot about backups, but honestly, him as a reserve, that's why it's so important to have quality depth in that 2 deep. So Trey Amos is certainly there. And I would believe that Trey Amos comes back and he's probably your number 1 corner next year in 2024.
Oh, I think Trey Amos comes back because I think he probably would believe Saban if he says, hey, you're going to get a good draft grade because people are going to see your upside, but you're going to get a phenomenal draft grade next year because you will be cornerback number 1.
Nope.
And look at how he attacked Georgia. So impressive watching Amos in that game.
No,
wow.
Absolute baller for sure.
We get into the next defensive back. You notice a theme here. Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Colts. This one makes a lot of sense to me. Now, Kyle, you said something earlier that I think is 100% true. I've been saying it all year. There were some people that had some complaints with Kool-Aid earlier in the year, and I was like, guys, he's just not being tested. Like, you're not seeing a lot of Kool-Aid because people aren't going to throw to his side because he blankets wide receivers. He is all over them. And to your point, it made Terry and Arnold grow up in the fire, and he is so much better off for it. Talk to us about Kool-Aid McKinstry, because this is just a smooth operator, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing about Kool-Aid is he hasn't made that many marquee plays this year. And he did lose his punt return job to Caleb, and people are probably a little bit more fixated on that than they should be. I'm not worried about that. I still believe that Kool-Aid, whether it's the Rose Bowl or if Alabama wins and they go to the national title, he's going to make a big-time play. I'm talking like a pick six. I can just feel it. Maybe I'm manifesting that in myself, but I just feel that he's a big-time player that'll come up in a big-time game. I think he just missed an interception against Georgia, but something special is going to happen with Kool-Aid, and I like the way he handles himself. I've seen him do a lot of growing up from the time that he came from Pinson Valley, now exiting the Alabama football program. Yeah, he's a first-round guy, absolutely. Can you imagine being a first-round guy at the corner position going into the NFL, matching up with those elite? Think about it. On the other side, these guys are always battling against Isaiah Bond, Jermaine Burton, Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law every single day. Iron sharpens iron. We always talk about that at the corner position specifically. I mean, these guys have had a lot of opportunities to go against some elite wide receivers. So it's not no surprise to me to see them going up against, being first round guys. And think about Alabama's defense and all the wide receivers that they faced this year, right? From Xavier Worthy, the neighbors kid from LSU, all the guys at Ole Miss, the guys at Texas A&M. So these wide receivers have tested Alabama's secondary. Alabama's secondary has been tested in an incredible amount of times this year. And these guys have stepped up and made major plays, or at least, held down the fort or made it difficult for quarterbacks to lock up with wide receivers. But Alabama's defensive secondary has 1,000,000% been tested this entire season.
Yeah, and they have grown in that fire. And now you go into the playoffs. Name me another secondary that's as tested and as talented.
There's none. Yeah, there's not. That's it. It's Alabama's.
Yeah. Beautiful. Right where we like to be. Now, Kyle, would it be a first round of an NFL draft if there wasn't an Alabama offensive lineman taken? I think not. And that's where we get into J.C. Latham. The IMG pipeline to Alabama to the NFL continues. Talk to us about J.C. Latham, just the next in the long history of Alabama sending their tackles or offensive linemen to the first round.
Yeah, I like the fact that the IMG pipeline, continues to run for Alabama. You had Jahad Campbell before Trey Sanders left to Texas TCU. He was from the IMG Academy as well. And then now you have a J.C. Latham coming in. I was curious to see J.C. Latham's development. He's been a lot better than I thought he was going to be honest. He's really been the anchor of this offensive line at the tackle position. First team All-American, a guy that, has really just been consistent this entire time when Alabama's offensive line, the rest of the offensive line kind of had to catch up to his level of play. He's never faltered. He's been a guy that has allowed few sacks. He's dependable. He's big. Seeing him going in the first round is no surprise to me. He'll be the second guy from the IMG Academy that went from the offensive line position to Alabama and then to the NFL following Evan Neal, right? So that pipeline continues. J.C. Latham is just great. He deserves probably some more notoriety from the media and all those different accolades. But as you know, offensive linemen don't necessarily get that. But J.C. Latham, this offense is a different team without him 1,000,000%. Critical component. He stays healthy. He's great when we talk to him, you know, in the media, doesn't say too much, doesn't say too little. J.C. Latham is an absolute monster. And, you know, first round draft pick, he'd be the only guy from Alabama on the offensive side so far, and at least in this mock draft, to go in the first round.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of youth on that offensive side for the Alabama Crimson Tide, which is why we don't see a lot of names there. But no arguing with J.C. Latham.
Mm-hmm.
We get into the last name on this particular mock draft, and that's Chris Braswell, mocked to the Ravens at 31.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, Kyle, I got no surprise that Chris Braswell is being mocked in the first round. This is a guy that has the numbers, but he's also one of these players where the NFL is going to look and kind of project, where they're like, we know what you did in 1 year. And this kind of goes to prove the point you and I say so often. At Alabama, you just need 1 year being the guy, right? And not 1 year of being the guy.
Yeah, this is really important for, I think, other prospects or recruits that are coming to Alabama. I kind of show them, if you're Coach Saban or the coaching staff, the story of Chris Braswell, because he came in as a 5-star and he could have left at any opportunity they had, whether it be NIL or now the transfer portal. And he's been one of those players that has been around that, and he could have left for a different deal or something like that, but because he was behind William Anderson. But what he did is he stayed quiet. You never heard from him, kept working, and everybody was like, where is he? Where is this 5-star going to be? This year, this is where he's at. A few steps behind Dallas Turner. It's the best tandem in terms of getting after the quarterback in all of college football. I think he clocked out at 21 miles per hour, so tremendous athleticism. One thing that Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell each said this year during media opportunities, they were like, think of us as athletes. Like, those guys are athletes. They don't see themselves as like edge rushers. They see themselves as athletes. Chris Braswell was like, they were like, did you play track? Did you do anything to work on your running? It's like, no, just natural. So these guys are amazing. Chris Braswell, it's a great story to see him wait his turn, contribute at a high level. He made Carson Beck uncomfortable. Like, just like you said, it might not have been a sack, but he hit him one time in the end zone after he threw the pass. And Carson Beck was like, oh, man, this is going to be a long game. So those guys have been nasty and key contributors to this Alabama defense that has been complete transformation year over year.
Love it. And like I said earlier, you don't have to get the sack. Give the quarterback something to think about. It will affect the game the entire way through. Great point there about Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell. Now let's get into this schedule reveal for 2024. Because I know there's a lot of excited fans. I'm super excited about it. And there are going to be some great games in the SEC because it's a changing landscape. Kyle, what stands out to you as we start looking at this schedule?
So the way that the schedule reveal is going to work, there's a couple. I think there's South Carolina and Vanderbilt that still have to be added to this graphic. This is from FBS football. They have a good schedule layout. I like how it works. But I think tonight the SEC Network will reveal all of the schedules. So you'll be able to know when the teams are playing in its entirety tonight. What we have so far are the matchups that we know when they're going to take place in terms of, the dates. And I think the Georgia one just got released. It's going to be at 6:30 on September 28th. So Georgia coming to Tuscaloosa is going to be fantastic. But you start out with Western Kentucky. You have South Florida. And that was one of those, we owe you one, you owe us one. So South Florida coming up from Tampa to Tuscaloosa. Then you go to take on Wisconsin. And as you saw yesterday, Tyler Van Dyke is transferring from Miami going up to Wisconsin. So that's an interesting storyline. I know, I think before this season, people were thinking that Tyler Van Dyke might make a play to come out to Alabama, but he'll be the quarterback. And I'm sure, that's going to be challenging going up to Camp Randall. I mean, it's an opposing stadium. It's Big Ten. It's early in the season. Then you have Georgia. So I would assume one of that Vanderbilt or South Carolina is going to be wedged in between those two games. I'm probably thinking it's going to be Vanderbilt if I had to guess. And then you have the Georgia Bulldogs. This is going to be a game that everybody is looking forward to just because You have Kirby Smart coming in to play Nick Saban right here in beautiful Bryant-Denny Stadium. And then you have Tennessee that's going to stick to the third game of October. Then you travel to LSU. So this is, look, think about this just real quick. What we learned is Alabama's going to Wisconsin. They're going to Tennessee. They're going to LSU. And as you can see on the back end, they're going to Oklahoma as well. And I would assume they're either going to Nashville to go play Vanderbilt or to South Carolina. So those are your away games. And then, of course, they have Auburn at home. What's your take on the schedule, Ty?
Yeah, look, I think Alabama had a lot of home games this year. Next year, they're going to have a lot of away, but that's why I'm so excited about the youth Alabama has on this team, right?
Sheesh.
Especially on offense. But I'm going to try and find something here while we're talking. I had something I retweeted yesterday about the top 10 teams in college football in terms of playing freshmen. Alabama was there. Here it is. Alabama comes in at number 9, having 1,999 snaps played by true freshmen this year.
Yeah.
What that is a beautiful recipe when the next year you're on the road against a Wisconsin. You're on the road against a Tennessee, against an LSU, against an Oklahoma. That youth getting that experience, I cannot stress how important that is. Alabama's offense next year is going to be a lot of fun, and the defense, the secondary is going to have to be replaced. Somebody said it in the chat, though, Kyle. Devontae Smith was supposed to be a starter in that secondary. He'll be back next year. And if Amos comes back already, you have Caleb Downs, Devontae Smith, Amos. You feel real good. You still have Earl Little, Desricks, Hurley, Antonio Kite. I mean, goodness gracious, the talent is not the issue. I love this schedule. I cannot wait to see how the SEC evolves with the entrance of Texas and Oklahoma. You're adding 2 top 10 brands into the best conference of college football. This is beautiful for football fans everywhere.
Yeah, and I wanted to show this graphic. I just screenshotted it real quick. Check this out, Ty, kind of just to build on what you're talking about next year's team. Look at Bama sophomores, and I'm sure I'm kind of missing some guys, but I put this together real quick one time, so I'll update it going forward. But check this out. So on the left side, you have Amari Niblack, you have Emmanuel Henderson, Isaiah Bond, Jaden Roberts, Jalen Milroe, James Brockemeyer, Jam Miller, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, Terrence Ferguson, Tyler Booker. On the right side of the screen on the defense, and Quinn Barnes, who is now transferring. So let's scratch him out. You have Damon Payne, Deontay Lawson, Jackson. You have Jaheim Otis. You have Jahad Campbell, Keanu Coote, Monkel Goodwin, Taryn Arnold, who's a redshirt sophomore. Watching him, even though he does have that high first-round draft grade, Tim Keenan. So that's kind of the look at the sophomores on this team, which is just absolutely incredible in terms of the guys who had a significant amount of playing time this year that are going to be, maybe coming back next year. And people have asked a lot of times, is Jalen Milroe coming back for this season? Look, we haven't heard any announcements from any other players, and we're not going to until the season is 100%. I think 1,000,000% Jalen Milroe is coming back for next season. What's your take on that, Ty?
I 100% think Jalen Milroe is coming back. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to put it like this. We had Bill O'Brien here for 2 years, and you got to see the evolution of Jalen Milroe under Bill O'Brien. I've said this so many times. I understand that Bill O'Brien isn't going to be developing the second-string quarterback at the same rate he's going to be working with Bryce Young. Fine. But look at the development in 1 year, less than 1 year with Tommy Rees. And the scary thing is they just figured each other out 4, 5, 6 weeks ago.
Yep.
Give them a year now together, an off season, watching this film back now that Milroe's like, oh, that's what you meant. Cool. And now that Tommy Rees is like, oh, well, when you told me that, that's what you meant. Cool. I think Milroe is going to take another step in this offseason. I don't think we've seen him get close to where his ceiling is. And because of that, I think he will return. And that makes Alabama very dangerous next year.
Yeah, and think about the quarterbacks going out into the draft this year. Think about how many games that they have started, how many games that they've been around compared to Jalen Milroe. Real quick, chat, how many games, and maybe you know this off the top of your head, so I have to look this up, but how many games has Jalen Milroe started so far in his career? We know he started 1 game last year against Texas A&M, and he started all the games outside of 1 game this year. So who can do the quick math?
13?
Right, 13
in total, maybe?
Compare that to Jaden Daniels. Compare that to Michael Penix. Compare that to Notre Dame's quarterback. So you think about all these quarterbacks that are going into the NFL draft compared to Jalen Milroe. I mean, he doesn't have the experience that they have. So continue to come back, work on your draft status, but overall just your craft, right? Get comfortable and develop into that quarterback that he is going to be next year. With Jalen Milroe coming back, he's already the odds-on Heisman favorite, rat poison. But who cares, man? He's Robert's saying he's unable to hear
He
us.
had an issue with his speakers, and unfortunately, Robert, I don't know what the
Robert,
issue would be
okay,
there.
Robert, do you have a Mac? If he has a Mac, basically type in sound settings and your sound settings will come up, and then click the speaker that should be like the default Mac speakers, or if you have headphones. So or just try another device. For example, if you're listening on your computer, then you can listen on your phone, whatever. I'm sorry you're having issues, but it probably sounds like you're having issues just on that particular device. The good news is there's probably another device that you can listen to the show at. Anything what else? We're just talking about Milroe for Heisman. I mean, you look at all these sophomores on the board. I mean, it's really incredible to see just the amount of talent that got to play this year. And that's why I said at the beginning of the season, this team was sophomoric. Now I know all the sophomores don't make up the entire team, but most of a lot of the offensive players were sophomoric, and they weren't ready for where they are up to this point in time. All these guys now on this board, they're not sophomores, they're juniors. They've grown up. And they've done an incredible job getting to this level. It's been really amazing. We continue to talk about, the key word, which has been transformation. And that's amazing what we've seen with this team, now at this point in time.
100%. And when I look at that graphic you had pulled up, if Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell come back, I'm going to be over the moon. I'm going to be absolutely ecstatic.
I think they 100% do.
I agree as well. I 100% agree as well. But that, to me, whenever you think about it like that, whenever you think about it with the mindset of Devontae Smith was supposed to start opposite of Caleb Downs, and then Caleb Downs is a hair away from being the leader in that secondary already. He will be the unquestioned leader there. If we return the inside linebacker duo plus Amos, Downs, and Devontae Smith, I feel real good about the secondary. There will be some growing pains, but that's a really good place to start from.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's that's pretty amazing. And like I said, I mean, that defense, because you're gonna have to replace Dallas Turner and Chris Broswell. Okay, yeah, those are gonna be major losses. You're gonna 4 major losses to the defensive side, right? Dallas Turner, Chris Broswell, Kool-Aid, and probably Terrion. If I'm Terrion, so this is how it works, and I said this yesterday. Right after the final game ends for Alabama, Coach Saban meets with his guys immediately. Before kind of everybody can get to them, and he gives them their draft grade like that he's received, and he doesn't want them to go to the NFL draft if it's like a 4th round draft grade, if you can come back, if you still have eligibility. So that's one of the things that Coach Saban will meet with the players on. But I think Coach Saban's going to, if Terrion Arnold wants to go to the NFL and he has a 1st round draft kid, which he clearly does, he's gone. So you have 4 key contributors for Alabama's defense. Throw on, I would imagine Jalen Key leaves as well, and Malachi Moore. So there's 6 guys right there from the defense that you're going to have to replace. It's going to be tough, but there's clearly guys, that can step up in the pipe to do it. Ty, have you had fun, man?
I always have a blast, man. That goes without saying. I always have a blast on Wednesday mornings. It's something I look forward to. Yeah.
So look, Ty Hayes is an up and coming YouTuber. He has Around the Sports Table, and you can follow that YouTube channel. Just type in Around the Sports Table, but also you can find him on Bleacher Report. Download the Bleacher Report app and look for his great college football content. And then next week on the 21st and the 22nd, I will be, as I've told everybody, I'm going to New Mexico this Saturday to go see my family. I go back once a year to go see my mom, my dad, my grandparents, all that stuff. So after signing day, which is next Thursday and Friday, I will be out of town, but your guest host and subbing in for me will be Ty Hayes. So definitely come in, support him, and give him all the super chats that you can. And we really appreciate you guys' continued support of the YouTube channel. For Ty Hayes, my name is Kyle Henderson. We really appreciate you guys joining us today to talk Alabama Crimson Tide football headlines right here on Bama Football on YouTube. 98,000 subscribers as of yesterday, inching closer to 100,000 subscribers. Ty, I really appreciate you, man. You have a great delivery. You're doing a really great job, man. I got to keep gassing you up. And I'm not just saying that, man, but I really appreciate your craft. Stay authentic. Keep doing you, man. And I appreciate you being here with the community.
Man, and I can't tell you how much it means being here, because being a YouTuber, you are the guy I think a lot of people look at and be like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be. I want to be that guy for my team. And it's just an unbelievable opportunity to get to work with you. The last thing I'll say is on Bleacher Report on Friday, I will be on there for the last college football pick'em show of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing the trophy home for the Crimson Tide, because as we currently sit, I'm in first place on our college football pick'em with 103 games picked correctly to only 28 incorrect. I'm bringing that trophy home. It's coming right here.
All right, fam. Stay good. Go support Ty. I appreciate you guys being here. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for any breaking news right here on the channel. And of course, live every single day during the week from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Central Time. Be good, and I'll talk to you guys soon.